Hello and welcome to day 121 of Dungeon 23, the series where we make a room of a mega dungeon every day for a year. Today is the 1st of May, which means it's the first room of the 5th level, and the level gimmick for this level is that the entire floor is one massive battlefield. And I mean that quite literally. You show up out of this entrance, and there's like a visible sky. It appears to be outside, but you notice you're like in a trench. And if you look above the trench, which is 10 feet deep, which I forgot to put down, but I will mark it down, you'll just see explosions going off, vehicles driving around, explosions, all this crazy battlefield stuff happening. And so my idea for this is that there's basically two teams of skeletons that are fighting each other. And you start on one side of the area, and you basically want to like amass resources so that way you could push to this separate, disconnected trench to get to the exit. There's no key to it, you just have to survive to get to it. Now, because things are a trench, the hallways are trenches, the rooms are trenches, you could just climb over and run to the next room. You don't have to go through the maze way or whatever. Now, the caveat being that when you're above the trench, then you're an easy target. So I have these rules right here, which is basically how this entire floor is going to work. Every time a creature ends its turn out of the trenches, basically the darker brown section, which acts as like the ground level, and then below that is like the trenches, roll a d10. On a 1 through 5, nothing happens. And you could just, continue moving at the start of your next turn. On a 4 through 9, they must make a DC 13 dex save, or take 3d6 piercing damage, because you basically got shot a bunch up by a Gatling gun, or like a Gatling ballista, or just random gunfire, random arrows, random bolts, random slings. Basically just random small arms just all hitting you because you're an easy target, everyone's shooting at you. And that's a 40% chance of happening whenever you try running over the trenches. Now, on a 10, so a 1 in 10 chance, a 10% chance of happening whenever you cross over or end your turn on, the ground, there's a chance of an explosion happening. On a 10, that creature that's turn it is, at the end of its turn, and all creatures that are within 15 feet of it, but are also like outside the trenches, so if something's like ends its turn just before jumping in, but something's already in there, if this bomb goes off, it's gonna be centered on them, but it's not gonna affect the guy in the trench because he's in the trenches, he's covered. And they have to make a DC 16 dex save or take 4d8 fire damage or half as much on a successful save. So it's very, very, very dangerous to try to cross basically no man's land, to basically get above the trenches. And that's what's mainly going to keep the party within the trenches. Crossing over is going to be something that has to be done either in total desperation or extremely strategically. And to kind of help the party get used to this whole new rule set, there is a sign here, which basically says, keep your head down, with the exclamation point. And a creature that reads the sign will have advantage on this first save it makes, assuming that it crosses over. And of course, the creature could only benefit from doing that once, so they can't just go back and read the sign, remember that it's happened. It's more to just prevent them from getting caught off guard. Now, other than this whole battlefield mechanic, another focus of this level is going to be the skeletons. I might have some other monsters, but it's primarily going to be a skeleton-focused level. And it's going to have, like I said, two different teams of skeletons that are fighting each other. Kind of like how in a previous level, I think it was like maybe 2 levels ago, there was 2 skeletons that were shooting each other from behind tables. And if you entered that area, you had to make a dex save to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. This is basically that, but on a larger scale, it's foreshadowing, maybe, or reverse foreshadowing, I guess. But as I said, there's going to be a bigger focus on skeletons, so there's going to be a lot more like skeletons to encounter. I have a few ideas. Mainly just take a skeleton and give it a new weapon and like maybe some spells or a special ability. Like maybe there's like a beefier skeleton with a Gatling gun, or like a spy skeleton that's like invisible sometimes, I don't know, I still have to think of some ideas, but it's primarily going to be managing your resources, planning out a good strategy, or it is dirt, you can just try digging your way through there, but it's going to take a long time to get there, because it's going to whittle down your rations and all that stuff, so it's going to be a very challenging level, not necessarily because of like direct combat, but because you're constantly having the environment attack you. And with our ground rules and basic concept for the level established, this is today's room 121. Thank you for watching and or listening. If you want to see more of this skeleton battlefield, then consider liking, commenting, and subscribing so that way it shows up in your recommendations more often. There's also a little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button that may or may not turn on notifications. It seems kind of sketchy, but you can try it if you want to. Or you could always just come back tomorrow. These videos are a daily occurrence, so yeah, you could always just come back tomorrow. And yeah, I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to get any better.